Ever feel like, I don't know, you're carrying around like a whole stack of invisible bricks? Obviously, not literally, but that weight of, just accumulated stress.
Yeah.
So today, we're doing a deep dive on a script that's all about just like kicking those bricks to the curb, finding some serious stress release.
Right.
We're going to unpack all of the how and why so you can actually walk away with some, real tactics.
Exactly. And it's not just about, feeling a little bit lighter in the moment, right? We're going to talk about the science behind a lot of these techniques and how they actually impact your mind and body, which I think is super fascinating.
Absolutely. And right off the bat, this script calls out something that I think we can all relate to: accumulated stress. Like these tiny little, almost imperceptible tensions that we just they just pile up without us even noticing. Like, when was the last time that you realized you were like practically chewing on your anxiety?
Yeah.
You know?
It's so true. And that's the thing about accumulated stress, right? It simmers beneath the surface until all of a sudden you're boiling over. But a study from 2020 get this, the International Journal of Psychology, found that people who actually make a point to manage this type of stress, they don't just feel better, but they're actually healthier too.
Right.
Less anxiety, just overall stronger well-being. It's like stress-proofing your system from the inside out.
Wow. Okay. So we're not just talking about like throwing on a chill playlist here. This is about protecting our health over the long run. So how do we ditch these invisible bricks? Well, the script jumps right into tactic number 1, and it's conscious breathing.
Okay.
So I know what you might be thinking, like, isn't all breathing conscious?
Right, exactly.
But, there's a real difference between those, like, short panic breaths that we take when we're stressed versus, like, those deep, deliberate inhales and exhales.
Totally.
It's like hitting the pause button in the middle of a mental storm.
Exactly. You're interrupting your body's natural stress response. Think about it. Like, when's the last time you saw somebody having a panic attack while they were doing, like, deep belly breaths?
Never.
It doesn't really happen. And a 2017 study from the University of California found that just 10 minutes of this type of breathing every day can actually significantly lower your cortisol levels.
Which, for those who don't know, is like the drama queen hormone of our bodies, always ready to stir the pot.
Precisely. And what's really cool is that, different breathing patterns can even have different effects. So like slow, deep breaths, that tells your nervous system to chill out.
Right.
But faster, more energizing breaths, that can be like a power nap for your brain. It's almost like you have the secret code to like shift your state on demand.
Mind officially blown over here. I'm feeling calmer already just thinking about it.
I know, right?
But breathing isn't the only way to tackle these stress bricks. This script also says that sometimes you got to shake them off, literally. So let's talk about the power of movement.
Yes.
And hold on, before you picture like marathon training or like those super intense boot camp classes,
Please no.
relax, right? This is about finding movement that you genuinely enjoy.
Right, because let's be honest, forcing yourself to do burpees when you really just want to curl up with a good book is probably just adding to your stress.
Exactly. Like nobody needs that in their life.
Exactly. But the key here is to really tap into that mind-body connection, right? So movement becomes this amazing outlet for all that tension that builds up in our bodies. Have you ever noticed how sometimes, a good walk can actually help you clear your head more effectively than like an hour of just sitting there agonizing over a problem?
1,000,000%. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like giving your stress an escape route instead of letting it just build up inside.
Totally. And there's actually real science behind this too. A 2015 study in the Journal of Exercise Medicine found that regular exercise significantly reduced stress levels, and it also gave people's moods a major boost.
You weren't kidding about those endorphins.
They weren't. Endorphins. The original happy hour. No cocktails needed.
I love that.
Right.
But this script doesn't just stop at breathing and moving. It also takes a turn for the imaginative with tactic number 3, guided visualization.
Ooh.
So before you picture us all sitting around in tie-dye, chanting,
Yeah, right.
let me explain.
Okay.
Guided visualization is essentially just a mental vacation.
Oh, okay.
You close your eyes and you imagine yourself in a place or even just a situation that brings you a sense of calm and peace.
Okay.
So even if your actual reality is like a chaotic mess, you can still give your mind a much-needed mini break.
Right.
It's kind of like that feeling you get when you're like completely engrossed in, a really good book or a captivating movie, and like the outside world just kind of fades away.
Totally.
It's that feeling.
And what's so fascinating about this is that you're essentially kind of rewiring your brain's response to stress. Because our brains, they aren't always so great at telling the difference between experiences that we vividly imagine and ones that are actually happening.
Right.
So when you consistently visualize these calm and peaceful scenes, you're basically teaching your brain to access those feelings more easily in your everyday life.
It's like mental muscle memory, but for relaxation.
Exactly.
So instead of just panicking when things get tough, your brain goes, hold on a second, I've been here before. And it's actually pretty chill.
Exactly. And it's not just like wishful thinking, right?
Yeah.
A 2016 study from the University of Chicago, they found that practicing guided visualization regularly actually significantly reduced both stress and anxiety in their participants.
Wow.
It's like giving your mind a spa day.
Even if your schedule's totally packed.
Yeah.
I'm already like picturing myself on a beach somewhere.
Right.
But we do have one more tactic to uncover from the script before I like completely drift away on a wave of mental relaxation.
Okay.
And it argues that true stress relief requires something, honestly, a bit more radical in our, always on world conscious rest.
Okay.
And this isn't just about getting enough sleep, though that is, of course, super important. It's about intentionally weaving moments of relaxation into our days.
Right.
Which, let's be honest, that can feel almost revolutionary in a world that's like obsessed with productivity and busyness.
Totally. It's like we're constantly being told to do more, be more, achieve more, that just taking a break can almost feel like a radical act of rebellion in itself.
Right. And kind of like a little bit indulgent almost, but
But it's not. It's essential, because here's the thing. Allowing ourselves to rest and recharge isn't selfish. It's actually crucial for our overall well-being.
totally.
A 2018 study from the Journal of Psychology of Rest, they found that people who actually made a conscious effort to prioritize rest actually experienced way bigger drops in their accumulated stress levels compared to people who didn't.
So it's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm.
We have to prioritize filling our own cups first before we can really truly show up for anything or anyone else.
Totally. Even small moments of conscious rest can actually make a huge difference, whether it's like putting down your phone for just 10 minutes to just sit and enjoy a cup of tea, or, maybe taking a few deep breaths before diving into like a stressful task, or even just making a conscious choice to focus on like the present moment instead of letting your mind like race ahead to the next thing.
Yes.
These little things can really add up.
It's true. It's like we've been conditioned to think that rest equals like laziness or something. But maybe it's actually the key to like unlocking our full potential.
Totally. It's like this whole reframing of how we view rest, right? It's not about giving up or anything. It's more like strategic rejuvenation.
Yeah.
So we can actually show up as our best selves.
I love that. So we've got these 4 fantastic tactics from the script. Conscious breathing, physical movement, guided visualization, and conscious rest.
Right.
I don't know about you, but I am feeling very inspired to go create some kind of like stress-busting toolkit for myself.
Me too. And you know what I think is so great about this script is that it really emphasizes finding what works for you. Because we're all different, right?
Absolutely.
And our stress relief strategies should be just as unique as we are.
Absolutely. Like I love the idea of like a midday dance break, but somebody else might find that like completely mortifying.
Exactly. Their version of that might be like a quiet walk in nature or, listening to a calming podcast or even just sitting in silence for a few minutes. It's all about like honoring those individual needs and preferences.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the best part is that these tactics, like they're not mutually exclusive. We can mix and match them, combine them in ways that feel good for us. It's like we're creating our own personalized stress relief recipe.
Ooh, I like that analogy. And speaking of recipes, what if we tried combining a few of these ingredients? So imagine this. You're going for a walk in nature, right? So you've got that movement aspect covered. But then as you're walking, you start to pay attention to your breath. You're taking nice, deep inhales and exhales.
Right.
So you're tapping into conscious breathing.
Yes.
And then you start to really notice the sights and sounds around you. So like the trees swaying in the breeze, the birds chirping, maybe like the feel of the sun on your skin. Boom. You've just added in a layer of guided visualization without even really realizing it. So good. It's like we're creating this beautiful flowing dance between these different stress relief techniques.
Exactly.
And it doesn't have to be like complicated or time consuming, right? It's just about finding those small, sustainable ways to kind of weave these practices into the routines that we already have.
Exactly. Making those conscious choices throughout our day to prioritize our well-being, even when things are feeling really hectic and busy.
So speaking of conscious choices, this script actually leaves us with a really thought-provoking question. And it asks, if you could only choose one of these tactics to focus on this week, which would it be and why?
Oh, I like that.
Right. And it's not to say that, the other ones aren't valuable, but it's really more about like identifying the one that you feel would be the most potent for you in this moment.
It's like choosing your stress relief MVP for the week.
Yes. It's a really powerful exercise in like self-awareness and intentionality.
Totally. So I have to ask, like, which tactic would you choose?
I've been giving this a lot of thought, and honestly, for me, it comes down to conscious rest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting because, as you said earlier, it can be the most challenging one to really prioritize in, like, our go world.
It really is. And I think that's exactly why I need to focus on it, because I can so easily get caught up in like the doing, the achieving, the constant striving for like whatever's next. But I know, like deep down, that in order to be truly effective, in order to really show up as my best self, I have to prioritize rest and rejuvenation.
So it's almost like giving yourself permission to, like, really hit that pause button and just be without judgment and without needing to be productive in those moments.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, practically speaking, that looks like carving out some dedicated time each day for activities that just really nourish my soul. So that might be reading a good book, spending some time out in nature, maybe doing some gentle yoga, or honestly, even just like disconnecting from technology for a bit and enjoying some quiet time alone.
Yeah, creating that space for stillness and rejuvenation in a world that often just feels so loud and chaotic. I love
Yes.
that. What about you? Which tactic are you feeling most drawn to this week?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I feel like I need a little bit of everything, but if I had to choose just one, I think I'd probably go with physical movement.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more. For me, it's like the most accessible and immediate way to just kind of shift my energy when I'm feeling stressed. If I'm feeling like overwhelmed or anxious or anything, even just like a quick 10-minute walk can totally change my whole outlook.
I love that. It's like you're literally walking it off.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be anything complicated. Sometimes it's literally just like putting on some music and dancing around my living room like nobody's watching.
There's something so liberating about that.
Right.
Just letting loose and moving your body freely.
Totally. And you know what? I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners too. Like, don't overthink it. Just pick a tactic that speaks to you right now. Experiment with it this week. See how it makes you feel.
Exactly. And remember, there's no right or wrong answer. It's really all about finding what works for you and what helps you feel your best.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe next week you'll feel inspired to try a different one.
Yeah.
The important thing is just to make that conscious effort to prioritize your own well-being.
Absolutely. It's not selfish, it's essential. And honestly, when we feel our best, we're so much better equipped to show up for ourselves, for our loved ones, and honestly, even for the world around us.
So well said.
Mhm.
And on that note, let's maybe shift gears just a tiny bit and explore one final thought-provoking concept from this script.
Okay.
It's all about moving beyond just, managing stress in the moment and actually thinking about how we can design our lives in a way that minimizes like unnecessary stress in the first place. Wow, talk about a proactive approach. So instead of just dealing with stress, we're talking about like designing it out of our lives completely.
Right. It's like we've been so busy putting out fires that we haven't even stopped to like install a sprinkler system.
Yes, 100%.
So this script is encouraging us to kind of step back and look at the bigger picture here. Like our habits, our commitments, even our values. Are we constantly saying yes to things that are just draining us? Or are we actually making choices that really genuinely align with our well-being?
It's about creating a life that feels aligned rather than just constantly reacting to chaos.
Yes.
I'm already like thinking of a few areas in my own life where I could, make some adjustments for sure.
Me too. And the beautiful thing is that this doesn't have to be like a massive life overhaul or anything. It's really just about these small conscious shifts. So maybe it's like setting some boundaries around your time, or maybe it's delegating some of those tasks that are just truly draining you, or even honestly just saying no more often so that you can actually say yes to the things that really truly matter.
Yes. It's like we're decluttering our schedules, our commitments, in the same way that we would declutter like our homes, right?
Exactly.
Creating space for those things that bring us joy, energy, a sense of peace.
And this actually ties back to what we were discussing earlier about like conscious rest.
Hmm.
When we actually make an effort to design our lives in a way that minimizes that kind of unnecessary stress, it actually becomes a lot easier to fit in those moments of rest and rejuvenation naturally.
Right, because they're not a luxury at that point. They're just like a natural part of the flow.
Exactly. It's like we're shifting from that mindset of scarcity, I don't have time for this, to a mindset of abundance. I'm making time for what matters.
Yes. Such a good point. Oh my gosh, this has been such an insightful deep dive. We've gone from like the science of accumulated stress to these really practical tactics that we can use, and now to this really incredible concept of like designing our lives for well-being.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm definitely walking away with a renewed sense of agency and a whole bunch of ideas to like actually explore.
Me too. It's a great reminder that we actually have a lot more control over our well-being than we often realize.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up here, let's leave our listeners with one final thought. We've talked about managing stress. We've talked about designing our lives in a way that supports our well-being. But ultimately, it kind of all comes down to this. What's one small step that you can take today to really, truly prioritize your own well-being?
Maybe it's trying one of those breathing exercises that we talked about, or
Hmm.
maybe it's blocking out some time in your schedule for a walk, or honestly, even just giving yourself permission to take like 5 minutes to just be without needing to do anything else. Whatever it is, make it intentional, make it count.
Beautifully said. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. Like, reach out to a friend, join a supportive community online, or even like seek guidance from a therapist or a coach if you feel like you need it.
We're all in this together.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into stress relief. We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and hey, maybe even a little bit transformative.
Until next time, take care of yourselves. You deserve it.